I think I mentioned it on the last episode. 40th birthday coming up for me.
Happy
My
birthday.
wife is thank you. My wife is getting me a PlayStation VR 2, and she went ahead and got it for me early
Nice.
because she's awesome. So I actually ordered it like the day after maybe we recorded the last episode. So I've had
hmm
a good amount of time with it. And so before I dive into some of the games, let me just kind of talk about the hardware a little bit. Just
Yeah,
kind of
because
like
I
a
because I retweeted that picture of you with your Joker happy grin holding the box. I was like, dude, I cannot wait to hear Micah
yeah.
talk about this
Yeah,
PSVR
I
too.
was giddy. I was the classic, like looking out the front blinds of the house, like looking for the UPS man, like every 10 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to, you can only buy the PlayStation VR 2 from Sony directly. Shout out to
Oh
them. I,
wow.
I ordered it through with like standard shipping and I got it next day. So
Oh wow.
good stuff there.
They they always kind of seem to do a good job with it. I remember when I got my PS5 shortly around launch, it came like 2 days later, if that. And I was like,
hmm
dang, that got here fast.
Yeah, there was an option to pay up for 2 day shipping, and I just
Mhm.
declined that. It's like I'm fine waiting a few days, and
Right, right.
it was on the doorstep the next
Yeah.
day. I think I was just close to a distribution center, maybe, but I
Oh,
digress.
okay. Yeah.
Um, so it came quickly. I've got sort of a pros and cons list. I'm going to kind of go
Okay.
over real quickly, and I'll just hit the
Okay.
cons first. Let's talk about the cord. That was one of the things that, when it was announced and we learned a lot about it, it's like, oh, it's still got a
Mhm.
cord. Okay, well, I guess that would make it pretty costly if it went
Yeah.
wireless. And that's true. But the thing I'll say about it is it's, of course, way less bulky of a cord compared to PlayStation VR 1,
Okay.
with all that
That's
setup
good.
and stuff. And by the way, just quick caveat, I'm going to compare a lot of things today to PlayStation VR 1 because that is my main primary source of kind of VR context. I
Sure.
have played and I've used an HTC Vive over at a buddy's house, but
Mhm.
never owned one. So my
Okay.
primary point of kind of comparison is going to be PSVR 1. But the cord is still a problem. Like if you didn't like it before, it's nothing's really solved here. You're still going to sometimes be sitting on it. You're still going to sometimes going to like just get off my shoulder kind of thing.
Mhm.
It,
Okay.
that stuff still exists. So if you
Yeah.
thought that was a problem before, there's nothing particularly better about that now, other than it's a little more lightweight and kind of easier,
Okay.
just kind of wheeled around.
Is it just a USB-C cable?
It is just a USB-C cable, which is part of
Okay.
my pros
That's not
in the
bad.
pros column. It's a super easy setup. You plug it
Okay.
USB-C right into the front of the PlayStation. You're ready
Mhm.
to roll. The initial setup is fantastic, intuitive, and easy. Really neat and
Okay.
cool, actually. Um, yeah, compared to the VR one, it's night and day. It's like, wow, this is super simple.
Okay.
Um, the main gripe I have is, and you may have seen this around the internet already, is it's really hard to find the quote unquote sweet spot when it comes to like it being in focus and stuff and
Mm.
like having
Yeah.
it up and down and left and right and kind of the distance from your eyes.
Yeah.
And it has a new dial on it where you can kind of it's like a wheel, like a mouse wheel, where you can kind of dial it back and forth, and it brings the lenses in and out based on
Okay.
how far apart your eyes are and how big your
Okay.
head is and all that kind of stuff. So you can
Yeah.
set it up, but then if sometimes you have to, I've been fiddling with it, and if you pull it in too tightly, it kind of pinches your nose a little bit, and it's a little bit uncomfortable.
Okay.
um so I'm still playing with it and toying with it and figuring it out, kind of where is that sweet spot. And I think I've
Yeah.
gotten some solutions, but that I've heard that already, and it is something that I ran into as well, where I'm kind of like readjusting it every 10 minutes or so. I was like, is this right? Is this,
Yeah.
it seems just slightly out of focus, but
So like
it's not a huge deal.
have the games kind of like had this blurry effect or because I've listened to a few podcasts and just read some more write-ups since we last talked about the PSVR 2, and that was one of the things they brought up was that like they feel like they don't ever have it like quite in focus like it should be. There's
Well,
always
like
like
I
a little bit
said,
of a
it's just
blurry
like
effect.
it's not. You just have to find the sweet spot. Once you're there, you're like,
Mm.
there we go, and everything's fine. But it can so easily kind of bounce out of that sort of.
So, sorry, I was just thinking, I was like, oh, so it's like the 3DS.
That's not that's not a bad point of comparison. I remember that whole debacle. It's not. it's not egregious. It's not like,
Sure.
ugh, I hate it. It's just like you can tell sometimes like I don't feel like this is just perfect, and you kind of
Yeah.
want it to be.
Mhm.
So I'm still playing with that, and I have made progress as far as like, okay, I need to tilt it back further on my head and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, the last con I'll mention is that there is a known problem, like a issue slash bug slash something with the sense controllers, which I have right here for people
Mhm.
watching on YouTube. The
Oh,
right
those are
sense
cool.
controller is it doesn't like sync up when you go into games. Like you're working on the menu and it's fine, but when you go into a game, none of the buttons work. And there's a
Hmm.
workaround where you just have to boot up the game with the regular DualSense controller and then swap over and you're good to go. But that's a
Okay.
problem right now. I don't know
Yeah.
what like it happens across multiple games. It doesn't happen every time, so it's really weird. But that's kind of
Huh.
a random just bug that I'm assuming they'll patch out with some firmware. Maybe I don't really know what's going on
Yeah.
there. But
Watch, they'll do it by the time this episode releases on public feeds, and people watching or listening will be like, "What are you talking about? That doesn't exist." Da, da,
Yeah,
da."
no, people who are in the ecosystem know it's a big thing on the subreddits.
Yeah.
Um, Transition over to the pros. It is there is a huge leap in like tracking. Again, going back to the sense controllers, these guys
Mhm.
are awesome. The way that they just you can like lift your finger, like you got the trigger here, and you've got the
Mhm.
L1 or R1 button right here. I'm sort of pressing it on the YouTube video, and then of course where
Yeah.
your thumb sits on the thumbstick, and like for example, Horizon Call them out. It knows if your hands are just sitting and resting on those buttons, and it'll like you'll do different hand motions depending on that. There's all sorts of
Huh.
neat things going on there, and just the general tracking of your hands is outstanding,
Okay.
especially compared to those move controllers of PSVR one.
Yeah.
Again, the shielding that goes around your eyes and kind of blocks out all the light
Mhm.
is fantastic. Like it is completely blacked out. You're in a different room, kind of thing. That
Okay.
there was some light seepage in the old PlayStation
Yeah.
headset, I
Oh, I
thought,
remember, yeah.
and that is completely eliminated. It is perfect.
Hmm.
Um,
That's cool.
there's a button now right on the headset, just on the bottom. You hit it with your thumb right here, and it allows you to look at your surroundings. It's like a black and white camera, so you can just like blink. Oh, hey, honey, I see you there. Yeah, okay, I'll get that when I'm done with this. Cool, and then blink
What?
back to the game. It's maybe one of the best quality of life features that exists.
Does
So
that this this is gonna sound really stupid of me to ask this. Does it need to be plugged in for you to do that? Because
yeah,
I'm like,
it's got to
oh,
be
it does have
turned
to be plugged
on.
in? Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting there thinking like, dude, I can be an X-Men. I can be like Cyclops sort of like, or maybe Data from Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not so good. You can barely. I tried to read a text message with it in that mode, and I could
Mhm.
kind of barely make it out, but not perfectly. So
Okay.
you're not like sitting there watching YouTube help videos
Yeah.
with it on or anything like that. But if
That's still
someone
pretty
walks
cool.
in the room, or if you're like you bump into something, you're like, oh wait, what's that? Okay, there's the lamp. Cool. Let me back up over here.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
That's
that's a
cool.
super dope feature. Um, let's see, I already went over the setup. Obviously,
Mhm.
graphical improvements over the PlayStation VR One are there. The thing has head rumble, like there's like vibration slightly in the whole entire headset. I thought that was going to be potentially jarring and
Yeah.
intrusive and thumbs down, but
Uh-huh.
they really so far in the games I've tried so far, it's really subtle and seldom used. It's only used in
Okay.
you're right next to like dynamite blowing up, and just kind of the
Oh,
vibrations
so
there,
you'll
like
feel the
something,
rumble. Okay.
or if you
Okay.
like are in Gran Turismo and you slam into a wall, something very obvious where you're definitely going to get some impact.
Okay.
Um, and then the last thing I'm going to mention about the hardware itself, I know I'm taking a long time. We're skipping. By the way, we're skipping over TRG kids. My kids are playing nothing new this week. We didn't even mention that.
Fair
Um,
enough.
but um, the last thing I'm going to mention is the eye tracking.
Oh,
Oh, this
yeah.
is crazy. This is the most like wild, like kind of next gen kind of thing to me. When you set it up, it gets you to kind of it goes through the setup process and you follow this little dot around the screen and stuff. And
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, you're done. Now look at each of these little lights, like different colored lights around kind of like a clock, like, numbers on a
Okay.
clock. And you
Yeah.
look at them and they light up when you look at them. And boy, I tell you, it is the weirdest thing in the world. And so the way it played out, one of the only cases I saw it was in Horizon Call of the Mountain, is you just do menu stuff with that. Like you pause it and go to the menu, you just look at the menu item and then press X.
That's pretty cool.
It takes a minute to get
That's
used
cool.
to, I'm not gonna lie, but it works fantastically and is super sci-fi futuristic feeling. And one of the neater aspects so far, maybe it's sort of a bell and whistle that'll kind of wear off over time. But for
Yeah.
right
Okay.
now, it was really, really dope.
Hmm.
Okay, so as far as the games that I played, I'm gonna real briefly talk about Horizon Call of the Mountain,
Okay.
Gran Turismo 7, and this game that kind of is turned out to be kind of a good launch game, this kayaking game. I so I did something really, really wrong, Logan. I was so
Okay.
excited. I got my VR headset. I'm like, yeah, Horizon is the game, right? It comes packed in with the thing. Let's boot up Horizon. Yeah, I'm a VR veteran. I've done VR before. No comfort settings whatsoever. Let's get this
Oh
bad boy
no.
going. And I start playing the first level, and we're climbing, and we're going, and we're running around. I'm shooting the little raptor robots. What are they called? Watchers in the game with my bow and arrow. And then about 3/4 way through that first mission, I'm like, oh, there's that there's that feeling. There's that familiar
There's that
feeling.
vertigo. Yeah.
It's the VR sickness. It's creeping in. And I know the rule of thumb when it comes to VR sickness, and that is stop playing immediately if you feel anything. And I did not do that.
I was about to say, why does it sound like you didn't do that?
Well, I was like, I gotta be close to a checkpoint or like the end of the first mission or whatever. So I powered through for another like 5 minutes, which doesn't sound
Yeah.
like that long, but in
Yeah.
VR it's decent. And so I got to the end of the mission and I took it off, and it wasn't awful, but it was enough where I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, yeah, I don't feel great for dinner tonight. And I kind of wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had put some comfort settings on. So, long
Oh
story short,
man.
that kind of ruined my experience with Horizon, and so
Yeah.
I went back to what I would call baby VR games, and so I'm going to work back up to Horizon, and
Yeah.
so like that kayaking game kind of falls in the same category where like I need to work up to that. Real
Oh,
quick,
that's funny.
Real quick, I want to talk about Gran Turismo 7. This
Yeah.
is a special VR experience. It's not
That's what.
something that I'm like, I'm going to play Gran Turismo 7 in VR now all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's just like, hey, buddy, come over to my house and just play a race and check this
Hmm.
out. It's dope. Um, the sense of speed that you get is incredible. If you could even like have like a box fan or something blowing on you, it'd be even better, especially if you're like a convertible or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, when you go into like a turn and like you're going too fast and you're gonna crash into the wall, like you
Hmm.
feel like I'm like leaning in to like brace myself for the collision,
Uh,
even though there's gonna be zero impact,
yeah.
actually to me. Um, it's a 10 out of 10 VR experience. This
That's
thing is
awesome.
absolutely incredible. You put the headphones on for the full experience. And
Hmm.
what's so funny, I did it the first time I played it. My wife did it the first time she played it, and I saw a bunch of people on the internet. You just once you get going and you kind of get like you're done with your first lap on it, and hit your first straightaway, you all of a sudden start bobbing your head because the music is going in your
Uh,
ears, and you're just like, yeah, you're feeling it, and you're bobbing your head to the music, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
that's awesome,
Um,
man.
I'll quickly try to go through these other ones. I played and beat Moss Book 2 on the VR.
Please tell me
Um,
it's good.
it's fantastic, Logan. You've
Oh
played the
man.
first one, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought so. I thought so, and that's great.
Awesome game.
I'm glad that you have, because it's the way that they let me kind of flip over my notes real quick, make sure I'm saying this right. The way that they kind of wove in the core gameplay of Moss 1 and then
Hmm.
expanded on that is really beautiful. A lot of the core, like, yeah, you're pulling this block out so that you can now walk on it. All that, they kind of reintroduce all those things from the first game that like kind of those sound principles of the gameplay,
Yeah.
and it's they like level that up.
Hmm.
They introduce multiple weapons now. You get 3 different weapons instead of just the
Okay.
sword, which is a
Yeah.
great variation move. They do things with puzzles, of course, with that as well. It looks outstanding. They continue the story, and straight up, no joke, this game was trying to make me cry.
Oh,
And I'm
getting
like,
in the
dude,
field.
I'm in a VR head. I can't cry. I'm in VR right now. Like, this doesn't mix. Like, I'm tears on the lenses. Like, what? No,
Yeah,
you can't make me cry. What are you doing? So, yeah, pulling at the heartstrings a little bit. Good little
right
tale
on,
that they
man.
wove here. Shout out to PolyArc, the developer. I would like for PlayStation to acquire this team. I think they
Okay.
would be a good fit, and they would be a good VR developer for them in the future. They've kind of got a good relationship with them. When I looked at the credits, it's had like external partners. Thanks. Sony
Hmm.
Interactive Entertainment was at the top of the list, among others like Epic Games and some other ones. AKA, they gave them money to make the game.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that would like for them. This would be a good fit, in my opinion, for them to acquire, and like a smaller dev that would make sense. But shout out to Moss Book Two. I think it won VR Game of the Year at the Game Awards this past year.
Oh, right on.
And yeah, it's an outstanding follow up. So if you've got VR
Good.
and access to that game, definitely play it. Real quick, I played this VR game called What the Bat.
I saw you tweeting about this.
Yeah, this game's a lot of fun. It's from the creators of What the Golf, and
Oh, okay.
this is a silly little game, kind of in the same vein as like Job Simulator or something like that, where you're just
Oh
kind of
my
like standing
gosh.
in a spot and you got these fun like puzzles and gameplay tasks to
Yeah.
do. And the premise of this game is that your forearms are wooden baseball bats. That's right.
What?
Yes, it's so silly. It's like Octodad silly.
Man, okay. When you said this was like what the golf, I was sitting here thinking like, oh, golf, whatever, you're gonna be hitting stuff or throwing the baseball bats or whatever, like you did in what the golf. I was not ready for you to say that your arms were baseball.
Yeah, your forearms specifically, not your whole entire arm. You can't bend at the elbow if it's a baseball bat. Um, so the game has you doing all sorts of tasks involving hitting like a baseball basically off of a tee, kind of. It's just floating in the air, and like hitting trophies and like various things that you got to like knock around. It's a lot of fun. I got all the trophies on this game, and Logan, there's no platinum trophy.
I saw, man, and I was like, what the heck? In the year of our Lord 2023? Come on.
I don't think I've played a PlayStation game without a platinum trophy since like the PlayStation 3 days. I was in shock. I was just going through and I'm like, wait a second, where's the plat?
Man,
So anyway,
that's sad.
I still recommend this game, What the Bat.